a lot of people who make their way out of kind of a smaller metaphysic of how the universe works that evangelical fundamentalism constructed for them. And then they naturally have this disenchanted world around them because all of their enchanted definitions of what prayer was and how it worked and who God was and how God worked all seems to have fallen apart. And they don't trust any of the enchantment that they experience anymore. Do you think there's a way to kind of reintroduce enchantment into people's worlds who have deconstructed it?
No, it's such a good question. And I found, because I too deconstructed from a more fundamentalist or evangelical worldview. And then the sort of default worldview I then adopted, I wouldn't say fully rejected it. I sort of recognized the value of my upbringing, but it also seemed quite apparent that that upbringing did not have a full grasp on the detail, the mystery, the nature of things in a way that kept me inspired. I felt sort of left dry. But I realized that I sort of then adopted a sort of default mechanistic materialistic worldview, and then I had to find my way out of that eventually. And I did it through reading. I did it through almost a kind of monistic lifestyle of pursuing truth through various degree programs, through the cultivation of a sense of art, of recognizing beauty, right? There's whole domains of spiritual practice that assist us with rekindling enchantment. But I just find it interesting that I went from, more of this evangelical persuasion, never fully leaving it, but then just assumed the world was sort of barren matter and mechanism because I thought that's what science told me was the way things were. Studying philosophy, spirituality, a number of disciplines showed me that that was certainly not the way the world was. And even, modern science would at its root tell us that that's not the way the world is. It's just that this kind of worldview emerged and it's still lingering in the culture, even if the results of modern science itself are counter to it. So I think all those things come into play, but there's nothing in the scientific worldview that requires you to have a disenchanted world. And I I didn't know that. And so coming up, I had to rethink science. I had to rethink what its limits, what it could say, what it could not say, and rethink a metaphysics, which is the total synthetic worldview in which all of the data of human experience has to fit: science, religion, art, aesthetics, etc. There has to be a whole holistic worldview metaphysically that makes sense of the various forms of data. And so it was a slow process of reading, of thinking, of writing, of developing a vision in which meaning and enchantment are fundamental, a fundamental part of it.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, it's a long process, right? But I think the encouragement would be for people to hang in there, right? Don't point to science as being the means of your disenchantment when you haven't really looked at what that science says, nor have you really developed a metaphysics that would be consistent with it, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, those are just a few things.